Shut up and sit down.
This is Holistic Vigilantes, hosted by Dr. Kimberly Baer and Dr. Jennifer Tipograph. These two badass dentists are breaking the mold to provide modern dentistry that doesn't compromise overall health. Determined to spread the word, the Vigilantes are kicking down the door as they bring you honest answers to hard questions. Buckle up for a wild ride down the Meridian Highway as they explore the connection between oral health and whole body health, saving the world one smile at a time. And now, the Holistic Vigilantes.
Hello, I am Jennifer Tipograph.
And I'm Kimberly Baer.
And we are the Holistic Vigilantes. Today, we have Dr. Felix Liao. Dr. Liao attended Case University in California. He is a certified biological dentist with multiple board certifications. He practices locally in Falls Church, Virginia at Whole Health Dental Center. He is a pioneer in the field of airway dentistry and the author of 3 books, Early Sirens, 6-Foot Tiger, 3-Foot Cage, and recently Licensed to Thrive. We are very excited to have Dr. Liao. Little story, real quick. I had started this medical book club type thing with one of my friends and myofunctional therapist, Hallie Balkin. And we started it and read the book, 6-Foot Tiger, 3-Foot Cage, for the month. And at the end of the month, we all met to talk about it. And as a surprise to the rest of the book club members, we had Dr. Liao show up and everyone was so excited. They're like, oh my gosh. It was no one knew. It was awesome. We're all taking pictures and showing you our notes from the book. And it was just a very, very cool moment. And we actually have a picture of it. We'll show it to you later. But welcome, Dr. Liao. We're very excited to have you. Yeah.
Also, I don't know, and I remember you did the myofunctional training at your office. I don't know how long ago that was.
It was
many years.
Yes.
I brought Jennifer.
Yeah.
You were my assistant then?
Yeah, I think it was either 2007 when I was your assistant or 2013 when I just graduated from dental school.
2013.
2013,
Yeah.
Very cool.
Long way.
Yeah.
Long ways.
All right. So before we delve into Dr. Liao's wealth of knowledge, I just want to mention that some topics that we hope to touch on today are COVID and how to protect yourself. Basically, Dr. Liao is going to share with us the 3 things that the CDC does not want you to know. And we're going to talk about sugar and how it's more addictive than cocaine and how using growth appliances, you can overcome this. And go ahead.
If you want to start us off with talking about COVID.
Sure. So what we hear about on TV and any media is what the government puts out. And the public health officials are concerned with one thing: where to put the patients if the numbers overwhelm the ICU beds and the corridors. So they're not experts in being proactive prevention, all right? To me, I'm sorry, vaccination is not prevention. Vaccination is disease management, all right? You're trying to manage a pandemic. I understand their position. Not everybody has to agree with it, but I do agree that this thing needs to come under control. So how do you control this? And why is, for example, U.S. leading the world in COVID deaths? We are the richest country. We have the greatest resources. Why do we die in the greatest numbers?
Is it because we're the most obese?
Very good start. But the public health official and their advisory policies about 6-foot distancing and all of that doesn't solve the problem with the root cause, all right? It's managing the pandemic, not their job. I understand that. But who is going to help you stop the forest fire from catching on inside your body once the virus gets in.
Yeah, no one talks about
No one talks about that.
There's been no prevention talk.
Right. And I am really proud to be a dentist turned mouth doctor because prevention is built into our professional DNA. Dental hygienists and dentists have turned literally dental disease into something of a horse and buggy in the history of healthcare now.
Yeah.
Right? Do you guys find cavities these days in your practice? I don't find any anymore of a patient who come to see me.
They all come to our practice.
Good for you.
I think you're sending them to our practice because you don't want to do them anymore.
I've stopped doing general dentistry.
Words out. You have a cavity, don't see Liao.
I graduated from Durhamville. But I will tell you that patients who come to see me, maybe because they've done the research and they've filtered themselves out, I just don't see cavities anymore. Most of them have pristine teeth, spotlessly clean like they just come out of the dishwasher. Most of them don't have any bleeding gums. They have long history of, nothing wrong with you medically. All the tests are fine. Nothing wrong with you in the dental hygiene checkups. You're fine, so how come I still feel miserable? So back to COVID, because they're connected, all right? So what I find is that we need to manage disease, the earlier the better, from the root cause. Then your healthcare costs will go down. Then disease won't rear its ugly head at every turn. So either you go to your doctor to put out the fire, or you go to ICU to stop a crisis, or you can go to your dental office and learn how to thrive your health by making your mouth an asset rather than a liability.
Yeah, that's so true. So like if you go to the doctors and you have even a sinus infection and they're going to give you antibiotics, but no one's going to talk about why'd you get the sinus infection?
Yeah.
Why are you always getting sinus infections?
That's right.
What's your mineral, what's your what vitamin C levels are you taking, or what can you do or take to not get a sinus infection?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it turns out that it's so simple, but somebody's got to say it. So here it is. The mouth is to the human body what roots are to plants. So if you want illness, you just keep on eating the standard American way.
Yeah.
If you want wellness, well, you better find someone to guide you, because the overwhelming cultural tide is against the individual duckling swimming in it. All right? The tide is pushing everybody toward higher disease susceptibility, obesity, cardiovascular disease, internal gut inflammation, and diabetes, and sleep apnea, and the tide is just pushing everybody toward emergency room or ICU once something happens.
Yeah. No.
And in this case, that something is coronavirus, COVID-19.
Yeah. So I was very disappointed. Well, okay, so first of all, I had COVID. And thank you, Dr. Tipograph gave me COVID. Early in 2020, like January, February, it ran through our office. We didn't know it was COVID at the time. I'm the oldest person in my office, and the funny thing is I'm big on what you're talking about, but I am not the best patient, and I have a million things going on. And I learned a very valuable lesson. I think I just got all my blood work done at Nava, and I was like vitamin D deficient always. Had the right supplements to take. Knew what I was supposed to do. Would do it for a week or two, and then would like get distracted. Anyways, I was definitely vitamin D deficient when I got it, and when I got it, it destroyed me. I was convinced I had lung cancer. I literally was like, I knew it was a virus. So I remember being at home being like, I can barely breathe. Like I couldn't, and I was in the best running shape of my life.
You were training for Boston, weren't you?
No, that was my speed. I was getting ready to do a short race, a very fast race. I was in great running shape, and I was like, I couldn't take a deep breath to save my life. And I was like, well, I remember standing in my room saying, I can still talk, like out loud. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to bed, roll the dice on this one. Hopefully I'll get up tomorrow morning. Anyways, I knew it was a virus, and your lungs, immediately I started taking my vitamin D, all my supplements I was supposed to do. I started doing high dose IV vitamin C's every day.
Good for you.
I basically got myself, but it took me months. It took me until May to be able to run close to where I was, but every day I went out there with a mile. I went from being able to run a marathon to being barely not being able to run a mile. And because your lungs completely regenerate every 7 years. People are like, oh, the long-term effect. I'm like, your lungs remember the smoking lung, the black lung?
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, in a runner, it should be even faster, but our bodies are designed to heal. And I just was like, I just have to be patient and listen to it. But what it did was a real wake up call for me about like all the things I knew I should be doing that I wasn't doing. And so when I read your book, it was really great, especially the sugar stuff. But
Thank you.
Sorry to cut you off there.
No problem. But you mentioned several points that are excellent illustrations. That is that you can be lean, and you could be seemingly healthy on the outside. You can still be susceptible on the inside. Okay? And so why do we need vitamin C? It's because it's a vital mineral. Why do we need vitamin D? Because we need sunshine. Mm-hmm. We're all indoors creatures now, right? Yeah. The digital age, you can have your blue screen on 24/7 to any hour of the night. So people have lost touch with their circadian rhythm.
Yes.
And that's only one aspect of it. There's a convergence of factors that make the U.S. population particularly susceptible to COVID. And one of them is that obesity runs rampant.
And if you're obese, your vitamin D intake is even worse.
If you're obese, you're set up to be toast.
Yeah.
I mean, all the people that you see on TV that didn't make it, with all the family members moaning and crying over, just watch what their phenotype or body shape is like.
Yeah.
Okay. But even the young and the lean are not immune. I mean, they're susceptible as well, because what you eat, how you eat, and whether you get enough oxygen, and whether you have enough adrenal reserve to make the comeback has everything to do with whether you survive. So in your case, you were able to regenerate and recover because your adrenal power is still there. But if you had been obese and you had undiagnosed sleep apnea and you had been diabetic, your odds of making it is way, way down.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. So any comeback requires the adrenal to mobilize your immune system. Okay, so here's a good time for us to talk about what innate immunity.
That's my next question.
Okay, so vaccine is acquired immunity. You get a shot of something that's made outside your body. Innate immunity is what God and Mother Nature and your ancestors have instilled into your immune systems so that it could handle anything that life thrown in its way. So to my mind, our ancestors got us here without any vaccine. So why is vaccine so imperative except for the economy? Now, that's a separate issue, and I feel for all the resort operators and all the waiters, and my son is a chef. So he's impacted as well, okay? So it's not like I'm not in touch with him. But from the body's logic, from biology standpoint, from physiology standpoint, innate immunity is able to handle nearly everything unless something is in the way.
Or it doesn't have something.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, something's missing.
That lacking of something, it could be include what we talked about: vitamin C, vitamin D,
Vitamin
K, bone building ingredients, gelatin, minerals, zinc. You need zinc
Selenium.
to power your immunity. You won't need all the excess sugar in your system that set your system up for one spark and you catch wildfire. Okay. But you need oxygen to empower your entire system. You need sleep. If you don't sleep well night after night because you have undiagnosed sleep apnea.
What about the rule of 3 that you like to quote?
The rule of 3?
Yeah. 3 minutes. So what is it? 30 days, no food.
Oh, okay. So yes, I get it. So how long can you go without food? Right? How long can you go without water? Okay. And how long can you go without breathing and air? All right. We all know at 3 minutes before you're a vegetable, if you're deficient in oxygen. Okay. After 3 minutes, can you make it back, even if somebody gives you the oxygen? Yeah, it's open to question. You don't want to find yourself in that situation.
You might not be the same.
That's right. You don't want to be in that situation.
So what if cumulatively you're let's say you're getting 30% less air than you should be getting?
So what happens is that every night you go to sleep, first of all, you don't want to fall asleep because your body will have anxiety because subconsciously it knows that it's going to be confronting death.
That's why it's been linked with insomnia.
Yeah. And
That's
Because your body thinks, oh no, I'm going to go lay down. I'm going to lay down and then I'm not going to be able to fall asleep.
that's right. I don't want to go there.
I'm not going there. But they'll fall asleep sitting up on the couch.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but the other part is you need sleep. So the body craves sleep because you've been sleep deprived and oxygen deprived. So it falls asleep and now it has to struggle to stay alive to make it the next day. That's okay for one night and you already know the next morning how terrible that feels. It's because your adrenals are being fried. So if you do that night after night, decade after decade, then you have gone down the proverbial hill. And beyond a certain point, your ability to come back is diminished. So this is called self-regulation in Western European biological medicine. In standard conventional medicine, it's called homeostasis. Your body's ability to stay within a certain efficient zone.
Yeah.
Like 55 miles per hour driving. That's where the system works the best. Okay, so if you lose that ability to stay well and to come back to this efficient, optimal zone, now you need help. All right, and if you get the right kind of help, great. If you don't, too bad.
So basically, would you say that innate immunity or vaccines are scientists trying to replicate our innate immunity? So like, for instance, really a vaccine, I was trying to explain this to my daughter, is them trying to get our body to create a response, to basically create immunity to something.
It's trying to mimic an infection.
Exactly. So basically the immunity that you would get from having COVID and overcoming it, and your body would develop these antibodies and this immunity to it. Right. The vaccine is really just trying to replicate that. Yeah. So I find that amazing and the whole controversy behind people who get it and have the antibodies and how long they're good for. We did have the antibodies, and I feel doubly good about that. But I mean, yeah, so the controversy on what is better. Is it better to have natural immunity, or is it better to have a vaccine?
Well, this is a hard question that's best left to researchers. But my personal feeling is that, the process of manufacturing a vaccine is not without risk.
Yeah.
All right. We have a mass vaccination. It's not, I see it as not that different from the glyphosate episode. Right?
Yeah.
When it came out in the 70s, oh, it's great. Everything is fine, safe, no problem. Well, now companies are being sued for billions of dollars, okay?
And for people that don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's just Roundup. That's just the sprays on weed and crops, okay? So we need to view this thing with a healthy dose of skepticism. I don't think that even researchers can question that. Okay, so how do you explain autistic children? How do you explain the autism fallout from vaccination? You could deny it, but you cannot explain it away.
Yeah.
Okay, just answer all the autistic parents. Okay.
The eyes, everyone having the healthy, view on stuff. I mean, hence why, they just pulled the Johnson & Johnson. It's like they're, really having to dig deeper now.
Right. There are risks involved in this.
There's everything, though.
Of course, yeah.
Even 0.00001% risk is too much if you are that one. If you end up being the parent who has to care for that kid for life.
Yeah.
By yourself.
So staying on top, I just want to go so as far as I know, if our listeners aren't aware of, Dr. Liao is really big in treating the airway issues with growth appliances.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And have you had any experiences this past year with patients with growth appliances and that have contracted COVID or had to deal with it or?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question. I did not do the appliance in order to prove that this could stop COVID, but I do know that none of my patients have come down with COVID. People who started oral appliance therapy just before and during the pandemic, they've all done really well.
Yeah.
I think that, the reason why I call this book License to Thrive is to answer the question, what does it take to thrive your health? I don't think there's any one of us who does not want to thrive your health, right?
Of course, yeah.
Either you can thrive or you can crash.
Yeah.
The road forks here, and which turn will you take? Okay. So what do they give you in ICU in order to revive you? Let's take the opposite end of thrive, right? What do they do to revive you?
Are you talking
They
about?
give you oxygen.
Yeah.
All right. Either through a nasal cannula or a ventilator, and they give you an IV. So they give you the necessary vital minerals and nutrition through the IV, and they give you oxygen. Well, if you go to the right doctor, they can give you the same thing at home, right? In your own bed, in your own kitchen.
Yeah.
So in that book, I talked about what? How to cook to thrive in your own kitchen, okay? I have a slide that I didn't put into the book because it just became available. It talks about how 2 filters, water filters, okay? One is 6 months later and the other one is pristine. Okay, this filter is tap water. You will not believe how black the one that's used is, okay?
Yeah.
And I have a picture of a pile of snow that didn't melt until recently. It's been there for like a week or 2, and it's covered with soot. All right, that's what our respiratory system has to deal with every day. All right, so we are already surrounded by nutritional bombs landmines. We're already surrounded by pollutants. Our U.S. Geological Survey says that pharmaceuticals are all over our tap water.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, antidepressants, everything.
Everybody's pee and poops with all the antidepressants, whatever, into the toilet.
Opioids.
That water is recirculated, come out of your tap.
It's amazing that we still need to take them. We just drink the water.
The collective good, right?
It's almost as if they're just throwing all these drugs into the water. And
Right.
then we get to
So this is the reason why you want to go to a natural biological dentist who are mouth doctors. All right. There is, to me, the reason the fact that the Americans are suddenly experiencing sleep apnea that was not there generations ago, it's not just from diagnostic. It's also because we're rapidly de-evolving as a species.
our jaws, especially.
Yes. If you live in America, you grow up in America, you work in America, you are going to become susceptible to modern illnesses, whether it's COVID or sleep apnea or diabetes and obesity and heart disease.
Hence why
or cancer.
prevention is so important, especially in the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we have the
road
ability to do
frontier. Either you have the mouth as a health asset or you have it as a liability.
And I will say, we see similar patients that are willing to put in the time and the money and the effort to address this, I will say, it is a little bit more expensive to do the prevention stuff, but in the long run,
It is not in the long run.
I'm saying not in the long run, but up front people say, oh, it's going to cost this much because they're just used to paying the $5 for their prescription drug.
Well, wait till you end up in ICU.
Right.
One night in ICU is $7,000.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's true.
For that amount of money, I can get you a new airway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your choice.
People and it's amazing. I always talk to my patients on CPAPs and they'll say, they all hate them, of course, but they'll say, the difference with and without it. Can you imagine if you got that much more air all the time without it being forced
That's right.
down your throat, which has a whole secondary set of health issues. The micro tears in your esophagus. And we've never had these generations of people on CPAPs before. I have no doubt our generation, we are going to see some crazy stuff in 20 years
Also, not to mention,
that is happening from kids are being put on CPAPs.
Yeah, the stuff that grows inside the tubes and
It's just, you are not designed to have air put down our throats. Look at what happened with COVID and putting people on ventilators. Mm-hmm. Everybody they put on a ventilator died. You can't force air into lungs that don't move. And that was like a huge disaster. I mean, no one knew. I mean, but that was like, hello. I mean, your lungs might be able to move a little better, but what are we creating?
So speaking of all this and tying it together, let's talk about sugar.
Oh my God, this is my favorite topic.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quote, when you talked in your book about sugar being more addictive than cocaine, it's such a good thing. I have to remind myself because right now, Felix, I'm dealing with a serious sugar addiction. And I never had that before. And I've had this, it's only been like the last maybe 8 years. Before that, I never, and now it's a struggle. It's definitely a struggle.
Yes.
So your book spoke to me, and I loved it when you said how you went to dental school and you'd have your coffee and your donut. And I was like salivating, thinking that's the perfect morning. Like I totally remember those days. Like that.
It got me through all those 8 o'clock classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
And that's 40 years in a row.
Wow.
Okay.
And then when you talked about your whole thing and how you were like, no, don't do it, and like the inner struggle,
Oh, that's why I put it there.
and then you talked about the emotional mind and the logical mind, and it was so well written, and like it was as if I was thinking it, and it was written the way you would think it to yourself, and I loved it.
Yeah, thank you. Well,
I need to reread it like every day.
Put it on your mirror.
Like a mantra.
and be a little forgiving because it's great that you have the realization. So being in touch and taking ownership of this urge, okay, is the first step. But the next step is going to be recognizing that you have been manipulated into this addiction by big foods.
Yeah.
Okay. This level of sugar that Americans are used to is not natural. It's not healthy. It's actually conspiratorial.
Totally. It's a drug.
So for people who want to follow up on that, just read Michael Moss's wonderful book, Salt, Fats, and Sugar. All right. It chronicles how big food spends millions and millions of dollars trying to find that perfect bliss point to hook you.
Yeah.
So that it could say, I dare you to take just one.
It's true.
Like drugs.
You
can't like
just take
using the
one.
This is such a
mindset of
hit,
drugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you snort cocaine, you want it. Ditto sugar. All right?
Yeah.
So they gave, in France, they did a study and they gave these rats levers to press. And there is healthy water and there is saccharin and there's cocaine. They would rather press saccharin instead of cocaine. Okay?
We're going to do some lines later. Get the saccharin out.
Okay, so they figured this out to hook you.
Yeah.
And there's no way you can fight it except you know, you get in touch with this awareness and you accept this internal struggle and know that, look, and this is why I say it's important to make this public declaration, right? My declaration to thrive is I want to live to 100, everything working and nothing hurting. All right. After that, I think
All the sugar you want. All the sugar.
after that, I would enjoy a great birthday cake and renew the deal with God.
Yes.
Right?
Eat your donuts.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, somebody wrote a book that says, if I was to live my life again, I would eat more ice cream. You don't want to live a life of regrets.
Yeah.
All right? So deprivation is not the answer. But I do believe that if you eat right and you're in good health, in other words, you're not eligible to do this if you have what we call cardiometabolic risks. If you're diabetic, you're obese, you need to work on that. But like both of you, you know, you're relatively young and healthy and lean, and your blood profiles are decent, then I would say if you behave 6 days a week on the 7th day,
Exactly.
you can live.
Yeah.
You can live and enjoy, okay? Sure. The standard American way, okay? And get away with it. The question is, can you afford to? And that's where U.S. population become more susceptible than the rest. We think we can afford to when we cannot, because our affluence and our taste conditioning by big foods who have manipulated us into a certain level of salt, sugar, and fat saturation as being taste good. All right, we've been conditioned to think and feel that way. Then you have been, you're labeled to become a CDC statistics on mortality and morbidity. I'm sorry, that's just how it is.
Yeah. I know, and I hate when I hear people, whether they're talking about their children or themselves or someone else, and they're like, well, they're thin, they can do it. Like you were saying, it doesn't matter. Skinny fat.
Yeah.
No.
Skinny
It doesn't
fat.
matter
No.
if you're skinny or not.
No.
And it's a
even-
health thing.
Even healthy runners can collapse
Absolutely.
in the middle of their race, right? Why? Because they've fried their adrenals or they have undiagnosed this and that. So judging a book by its cover has limitations.
Yeah.
Let's put it
So
that
bringing
way.
that back to now with the sleep apnea stuff, I mean, we talked on the sugar, but bringing back to the sleep apnea, I mean, people used to think, oh, just fat people have sleep apnea, but skinny people have it too, just like you're talking about with the skinny people having underlying conditions that, you know.
And CDC just came out with a study that shows that even people whose BMI is under 24, like if you're too lean, you're just as susceptible to COVID.
Sure. It's yeah, exactly.
There's an optimal zone.
Yeah.
Okay. So balance, variety is the ticket to thrive, plus oxygen and good sleep.
So do you want to talk about with the appliances and growing the airways and helping the sleep apnea?
Well, here's a great news, okay? So there's this new frontier in dentistry and medicine. It's called epigenetics.
That's my favorite topic.
Right.
This gives you hope.
Yeah.
On all fronts.
Epigenetics
On all
means
fronts.
on this side of 16, there's still hope for you.
Yeah.
You're not stuck with what you've got.
Yeah.
Whether it's crowded teeth, head, shoulder, and neck pain, or depression and anxiety, or waking up.
Or high blood pressure.
Yeah. Or waking up tired and say, God, isn't that normal for everybody? No.
Yeah. Or I'm genetically predisposed to this.
My whole
Forget
family
that.
snores.
Yeah.
Because you all eat the same dinner, okay? All right. So the thing about epigenetics is that we can use a new generation of epigenetic oral appliances to regrow jawbones that are underdeveloped as a result of multiple factors, starting with tongue tie at birth, and then improper weaning, and then the standard American diet, and so on and so on and so on. I recommend everybody just don't ask a question. Don't, for the sake of your family and children, just join Western A. Price Foundation, become a member, and thank Sally Fallon for starting it, because it is the only North Star by which you should navigate your nutritional practice at home. Okay, so the epigenetic part, my appliance is called Start Thriving Appliance because there are two principles. One, it's the only appliance that's being paired with a bone building diet. So let me talk about that for a second. Bone building diet, I've reduced it down to two very simple items. One is green smoothies. Basically, you make your own V8 juice. You blend your salad and throw whatever else you want in there. Half a banana for taste, chocolate powder and raspberry because it's such a blissful sensation in the aftertaste. Okay? These are all healthy antioxidant stuff. So even kids love it.
Sure.
All right? And whatever that's in season, it's rich in vitamin, minerals, and colors and fiber. So that's the vitamin and mineral part. So the other part is bone broth. All right. There's no excuse not to make your own broth anymore. Okay. You go and buy a crock pot for $9.99 or $19.99, depending on the size. Plug it in overnight with bone and water in it, and carrots and onion and celery. And the next morning you got rich bone broth. Put it in the fridge, come back from work, skim off the fat, and underneath you have gelatin. Gelatin heals what? Leaky gut. Gelatin stops inflammation. Gelatin provides the bone building ingredients that epigenetic oral appliance helps you grow your upper jaw and lower jaw and a prettier face. I love doing this work because all the women come back more beautiful. No, seriously, the lips gets fuller without injections. Cheekbone shows up. Facial radiance without makeup.
Yeah,
the inside out facelift.
They advertise it, I think, in New York and California has the surgicalist facelift, right? Yeah. Isn't that what they call it? Yeah.
You know, just do the epigenetic oral appliance and just find those doctors who can provide that for you.
And let me just, for everyone, explain what epigenetics is. Yeah. It's a huge field of, we learned when it came about like 20, 30 years ago, maybe we figured out that we used to think that there was everyone had a few strands of DNA and you were born with this gene for this and this gene for that. And then what we didn't realize is that you have many genes of DNA, and that the cool thing about it is during the course of your lifetime, like every day and the things that you do and the environment you're in and the things you eat, you can switch which gene of which strand gets,
activated.
Yeah, it gets activated. And so, for instance, like you can, there's an idealized strand where you grew to be the perfect height, or your jaw was at the perfect size, and because of different factors, environmental, you're actually at this other strand, but you can change that. It doesn't have to just stay the same throughout your entire lifetime. We used to think that we just stopped growing and started to die. It just gets very slow, and you can speed that up. And you don't have to just say, this is what I have.
Right.
You can fix things. I have when I had a knee injury in the beginning of college, playing lacrosse, and I have an x-ray of my left knee. And then when I didn't do anything and I started running when I was 40, I started to have problems with my left knee again. And they did an x-ray and I brought in my old one, and it looked like two different legs. Because I had been doing endurance sports for 3 years earlier. My bones were so much better with my 40-year-old leg than it was with my 21-year-old leg. The surgeon was like, are you sure this is your x-ray? I was like, that's my leg. It looked better. It's like your bones get bigger and stronger. So that people are like, oh, you stop growing. You can't expand the jaw. You can't grow your jaw out as, only kids do it. That's not true. No. Your bones are constantly growing. It's just about, what you're doing to take care of them.
Right. The body is adaptive, and it will adapt in order to survive, and so it will respond to different stimulus. So we cannot make somebody taller epigenetically.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Felix is working on it. Yeah. That's the next book.
The principle is this, that the jaws and the face, okay, so in this Facebook age, people forget that the face is 2/3 jaws. From the corner of your eyes down to your chin point, and ear to ear, it's all your jaws. Okay? So the jaws can be redeveloped because there are stem cells in your roots.
A lot of stem cells.
A lot of stem cells. And there are stem cells also in the sutures that joins the jaw bones to the skull bones. Okay? So with the right stimulus, those stem cells could be switched on, and the original blueprint that's encoded in your double helix DNA can start to express itself. In other words, you can resume your arrested development that resulted in, for example, crowded teeth. We can now grow the jawbone in combination with a bone-building diet.
How long would you say this typically takes for a person on average?
So it depends on age, and it depends on compliance.
Sure.
Compliance means if I tell you do 100 push-ups, will you have done that by the time that homework is due? So typically, the Chinese and the German patients do better than the standard American patients. But that's not to say that there are not compliant Americans. That said, the more compliant you are, the sooner you graduate. Okay, so let's assume 100% compliance. It's generally about 2 years to 3. So some people grow up with mouth breathing and antibiotics and tongue tie and a retained pacifier swallowing reflex like this, undiagnosed. And so those would take longer to unravel and return to normal, because you must remove the negative influences for the natural version to show up. If I put a thumb on you, you cannot stand up tall. Okay, so we need to remove that. And so the wrong swallowing, it's called grimace swallowing. If you hear somebody swallow and you hear a gurgling sound, they're swallowing air. So that's a compensated swallow as a result of tongue tie.
And if you swallow air, it's going to come out somewhere.
Yeah. And
It'll be
it's gonna feel bloated.
gassy, bloated, a lot of burping.
Yeah. Okay.
It's disgusting.
So this Yeah, the stomach's not made for air, the lung is. So the mouth,
The third lung.
yeah, the mouth is supposed to be for digestive process. Okay, so the peristalsis, the wave-like motion that transport food from mouth down the digestive tract, is initiated by the tongue with the teeth together. This is how swallowing starts. So if the tongue is off because of the tongue tie, and don't get me started on this, I believe the tongue tie is secondary to maternal hypothyroidism.
I agree.
Yeah, okay. So mother's health and mother thyroid condition is vital. And I would implore all of you women patients out there who go to see a dentist to ask your dentist guide you and evaluate you on your own oral structure, particularly your upper jaw, because that has an influence on your pelvic opening, okay? And your thyroid status, because that has an influence on your child's tongue tie, in my opinion.
Because
and autistic risk.
You change your DNA when you make these structural changes on yourself, and so your children will be affected. Here's just a crazy little story that makes sense. So my mother, I'm the youngest of three, so before she got pregnant with me, right before she got pregnant with me, she had, her hand got closed in the car door, and her finger, her one fingernail got her finger just dented, like just permanently. So not a big deal, right? But I was born with that on my finger. So it shows you how it changed her DNA. You know what I mean? She always thought that was so funny. That was so crazy.
That's clearly epigenetic.
Which explains when generation after generations of premolar extractions or traditional orthodontics, or where the jaws have been held back, it gets.
I call that subtractive orthodontics. Subtractive.
Yes. And
you
so
extract and
with
retract.
each generation, it just gets, you can have none, but if your mother had it, it's sort of handed off to you.
Right.
Yeah, but if you corrected that beforehand,
yes.
What a great thing that would be for your
That's
child.
Right.
I also think that tongue tie and lip tie screening should be part of that newborn evaluation.
Absolutely.
When they come right out of the womb.
Sooner is better.
Yeah.
Sooner is better. But if you want to explore the origin of that, I think the best way is to be proactive, and which is to assess pre-conception maternal health, to include the mouth and the thyroid status for sure.
So the adult tongue tie thing is a big thing in our practice.
Right.
And I did a podcast with Hallie and I did a bunch of research, and Australia is very cutting edge on doing adult tongue tie releases and to help with shoulder, neck, and trap pain and tightness and that forward neck posture. And I had very much a tongue tie. So did my kids, but it was never they all latched and they ate, but we're all tongue tied. And we definitely all have shoulder and neck issues and airway issues and all that.
Yeah. They're subclinical. I mean, there are severe tongue ties, and then there is shades of gray between that and completely normal tongue tie. Yeah.
No, I think and people just think it's with infants, but it's not.
No.
It's a big problem with adults. And most of my patients who have sleep apnea are tongue tied.
Well, that's why they have narrow upper jaw in the first place, because the tongue tie anchors the tongue to the floor of the mouth, so they cannot provide the upper jaw with the stimulus to.
There's that physical
wider.
restriction, so the tongue's not able to support the growth because it physically cannot get there.
And another part of your book that I really liked is when you say, when you ask, when are you going to show up to take charge of your health? Like, when's that going to happen?
Thank you. Wow. It shows that you were really paying attention. No, this is a really important question for all the doctors to ask their patients, because what do you go to the doctor for, right? Do you come to me because you want to get better? And so you need to ask, well, how did you end up here? And will you take charge? so that you don't repeat the old pattern, right? So fundamentally, there is a partnership between the patient and the doctor. You know, the patient is the owner and operator of their body, their mind, and the mouth. And so to the extent that the mouth is the roots to whole body health, you need to have a mouth doctor to guide you. And what we have in the U.S. is there's a department for every part of the human body in a hospital, but have you heard of a department of the mouth? Everybody has a dentist, a cardiologist, an OBGYN. Do you have a mouth doctor? Well, I'm sorry, dental school trained dentists to be 2 doctors. Right? When we get our state board examination, what did we work on?
Teeth.
Teeth, yes. What do dental insurance code us on?
Teeth.
Dental procedures, okay. So that is the expectation. That's what dentists been boxed into, just being 2 doctors.
And therapists.
Right. Right. And so the mouth owner and operating part got left out of the care of health. And so when somebody shows up with a pot belly, I think the doctors, if he or she really cares about the patient, say, well, when are you going to take care of your pot belly? Because that is a serious COVID risk factor.
No one, and then, why, I don't understand, no one was talking about, this year would have been the perfect year to, why aren't we taxing soda more? Why don't we get rid of soda? Why aren't we getting rid of all these things that are making people more susceptible to COVID and every other chronic disease that we have here? No one's talking about I'm going to get in shape and make sure I don't get sick. Everyone's just hiding behind their mask in their house.
There are multiple explanations for that. The simplest of which is one, inertia. What stays is what is. Okay, and what is what stays. Because if you want to change something, you have to fight the lobbying forces that's going to oppose you. Okay, and believe me, well-intentioned dentists have tried to stop soda machines from being put in schools, and guess what?
They lost.
Yeah. And there are being serious, threats to the dentists that you don't hear about on TV and get reported in newspaper. Okay, so there are mafia-like forces opposing every good cause. That's just a fact of life, and that's what plays out in Congress.
Yeah. I had dinner with my brother-in-law last night, and he was telling me how in some of these other countries where they ban the size of your soda, how many ounces, how significant the healthcare costs went down when they started banning just the amount that people can get.
Do we still have supersizing? And
I feel like they're pretty big.
Even after that movie?
Yeah.
Has anyone seen that movie?
The idea that more is better may be okay for consumer goods, but for your health, no.
No, it's terrible. When we were in, we do a lot of overseas work, and we were in the Philippines, that was it was the craziest situation because there was all these American fast food, Coke plants, and so it's much cheaper to drink soda than to get clean water there. Yeah. So the kids grow up on soda and candy. But the scariest part was, what was it? The Kentucky...
it was like the double fried chicken.
So before they released things in the U.S., they tested, and this was a hot dog that was fried, that was in a bun of fried chicken. It was a triple fried super dog thing, right? Now, at the time, my husband thought it was hysterical that we were going to Philippines and they were releasing, the super triple fried, and we don't even eat that stuff. But so we do have a photo. I should go get
the group taking a bite of it.
Yeah, and then spitting it out of our mouths.
All of our faces are like, ugh.
But it never. I don't know. It must have not done well because it never made it here to the United States that I know of. But I mean, it was just so disturbing. It was very.
And it was, I mean, we were there on these dental mission trips, and you'd see these kids bombed out teeth, and then, but they leave the practice, they leave the little setup where they just had their tooth taken out and they're carrying their bag of like sugar water,
Yeah, but you don't even have to go to another country to see that.
Of course.
Because my sister is an OB, when she was practicing in Kentucky, she would see kids come in the stroller with their green bottles, their Mountain Dew, and the bottle, and it was like,
yeah. So it shows that the human mind is susceptible to manipulation, and so more is better. Hey, here you go. Yeah.
So we have a question. We're going to wrap this up, Felix. We have two things. We have a gift for you. If you could hand that to me, CJ, over there. And then we have a question for you. What are your thoughts on earwax?
I don't have any thoughts on the Earwax, I'm sorry to say.
Have you heard about how they're saying that the paleo diet is basically could decrease earwax issues?
No, I have not heard that. I work with TMJ, but I treat oral contributions to anything and everything, but I don't treat back pain, sleep apnea, or earwax. So I'm not gonna claim ignorance on this one. Do you have any experience with that?
So when we come out with the next book, when you come out with your next book on how to get taller and decrease your earwax with the bone building diet, that's gonna be the next one. And we have this for you, Felix, because now you're
all right. All right.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
I am totally thrilled and totally enjoyed myself with you guys.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you.
All conversations and information exchanged during participation of the Holistic Vigilantes podcast or interaction within the social media umbrella of the Holistic Vigilantes pages are strictly for educational and entertainment purposes.